in 1949, a wildland fire overcame and killed 13 firefighters in northern Montana. And as we all know, the incident's name was the Man Gulch Fire. And I think as an 18-year-old, as I sat in that classroom, I probably felt some sadness. I'm kind of an emotional kind of gal. And so I probably felt sadness for the family members and for those that lost their lives. But I also think at that moment, I dismissed that thought or those emotions with, it could never happen to me. So I went on to have a very exciting firefighting career. And in 1992, my opportunity came up, and the Prineville Interagency Hotshot in Central Oregon had an opening. And in '94, it was turning out to be an awesome year. And if you all remember 1994, it started with the bang. And someone said, hey, let's get our crew picture taken. You know, because we always took the crew picture every year. And so we had this tourist stop by, and she took our picture. And little did we know that 2 days later, Kathy Beck, Rob Johnson, Terry Hagan, Scott Blecka, Tammy Bickett, Levi Brinkley, John Kelso, Bonnie Holtby, and Doug Dunbar would be dead.
So sometimes incident personnel or firefighters will experience a critical incident on a fire or on any assignment or even off the job. And what these might include would be fire line fatality, aircraft accident, vehicle accident, or the cumulative effect of stressful events, maybe losing a fire or having a close call of some kind. Also possibly a shelter deployment, or even something outside of work, like you know, a tragedy within a family or something. Critical incidents can cause strong emotional responses in personnel, and you may recognize this with a series of symptoms or you know, emotional signs. Physical signs might include fatigue, insomnia, nightmares, or restlessness. Mental signs may include trouble concentrating or making decisions, or continually thinking of the traumatic event. Emotional reactions may be depression, feelings of guilt, irritability or anger, or the feeling of being easily frustrated.
That needed to be made on my part. Was I going to return to the hotshot crew? You know, I was in a lot of grief at this time. Yeah, out of the 5 women that was on our crew, I was the only woman that survived. It was terribly painful, and to have something like that happen, you know, it pretty much stabbed me in the heart. And so I decided not to return that summer. And I wasn't the only one that decided not to go back that summer. But what happened then was kind of interesting. The district was like, well, what do we do with Kim now? You know? And I had a degree in biology, and so it was like, well, let's put her on the fish survey crew. Yeah, let's put her on the fish crew. She'll go out and she'll have a good summer with the fish guys. So they put me on this crew, and we would go out when we'd shock fish. So when they'd belly up, they wouldn't come back to life. So there was a lot of death going on. So I didn't last on the fish crew too long. And they decided, well, let's send her back to that Sisters Ranger district. So let's see what else we could do with her. Kim used to love being on the lookout tower. Let's put her back on the lookout tower. Okay. So I took my dog with me, and we sat up on that butte for 2 months. The human interaction, it didn't happen, and there was a lot of isolation. And I must say that may have been the catalyst to PTSD. So, anyway, got off the butte finally, and in July 6th of 1995, it was our first year reunion, you know, anniversary of the fire. So everyone was going back to Glenwood Spring. I didn't know if I should go, I didn't know, and finally I made the decision, I'm going. So I went. When I climbed up to that ridge, and I came to the very first cross, and it was my good friend Bonnie Holtby's cross, I remember sitting down and bawling. And the reason I was bawling was because I realized I hadn't mourned for Bonnie this year. I didn't do her justice. I mean, I was mourning for Tammy. You know, there was too many deaths to really grieve and mourn for all of them. There's too many. And so I remember just saying, I'm so sorry, Bonnie. I hadn't mourned for you this year. So, things are going on in my brain. I was starting to have nightmares. Some flashbacks are going on. I had this compulsive nature to visit grave sites all the time. And so finally in 1996, I had the courage to say I need help. And I forget what happened, but I got in contact with a couple counselors. Now, my point I want to make with this is, if you go to one counselor and it doesn't work out, keep going to a different one. I mean, there's good people out there that know what trauma is. So I went to a third counselor, and this woman, whew, she's awesome. She knew what trauma was. She knows what post-traumatic stress disorder is, and we set to work working out the grief. I didn't have to go back to the grave sites all the time. I got rid of some of that survivor's guilt, you know, and we worked through it. And so there was another spiral. In the spring of 2005, I called up that wonderful therapist I had seen back in 1996. 11 years had gone by since South Canyon Fire. I called her up and I simply said, I believe I should have died on July 6th of 1994. And she, in her so many words, said, get your rear in here. You have some work to do. So we did. We did a lot of work. And it's, you know, in the world of, you know, counselors and psychology and therapists, there's some wonderful techniques out there that will work through trauma. My point is, you can heal. You can work out the grief. You can work through those powerful impressions of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch that kind of haunt you over the years. You can work through that, and you can heal and still feel. So when I was in the depths of PTSD, because I had all those symptoms, and when I was in the depths of that, it would have been really awesome if somebody had come up to me and said, hey, what you're feeling right now is normal, because what you experienced was very abnormal. If I had heard that, I think I would have felt less crazy.
So if a critical incident occurs, the HRSP becomes the focal point of any critical incident stress management. And with the affected personnel during that first 24 hours, the HRSP is kind of the go-to person to ensure that whatever their needs are, they're being met, and make sure they have the ability to call home, make sure they have clean, dry clothes, make sure they've, you know, been fed, and that they have privacy if they need it. And some people, you know, want some clergy, so, you know, the HRSP would make that happen too. And then the other part of that first 24 hours is the importance of information sharing. And people need up-to-date, good information. It's really important to them. Once the team makes the decision to bring in a critical incident stress resource, the HRSP role then switches and becomes a liaison between whatever the critical incident resource is and the incident management team. And in this role, they stay in direct contact with the debriefing team, and they're going to ensure that the right people that were affected, that they know where they're located, that we have the contact information for them. And then they're going to ensure that there's a good, comfortable meeting place that's private. So that's pretty much the HRSP role.
have been really awesome if somebody had come up to me and said, hey, what you're feeling right now is normal, because what you experienced was very abnormal. If I had heard that, I think I would have felt less crazy.
A debriefing includes all the personnel that were involved in that critical incident, plus 2 to 4 members of a peer team that are from the firefighting community, and those people are trained and volunteer to come and help those people deal with their feelings. We go in a comfortable situation that's private, and all of the responses that come out in that meeting are private. Some people, it's highly emotional, and for other people, they deal with it in different ways. And it takes about 1 to 4 hours to do, and we offer afterwards ways that they can deal with their stress, and referrals if needed. Everything that's in that meeting is not any form of investigation or any type of notes are taken. There are no recording devices, so it's all private. I also think that we kind of owe it to our family members that we go through something like that and we bring home our feelings all bottled up, and who do we take it out on? So it's not just for us, it's for our families. I remember when where I was when Storm King happened. I had just jumped a fire that morning, and my wife and kids did not know who it was that got hurt and killed, and for many hours until after we were removed off the fire we were on to be able to go home and call, and the effects that that had on my family. So these things are elicit strong emotional responses in all of us, and we react different ways. So it's a good way for us to help our friends, help our peers to adjust to these situations when they come up.
A critical incident stress peer team consists of peers, and in our case, people with strong fire backgrounds, and they also have mental health clinicians with them. And several of the geographic areas have established fire peer teams, and we found that they're highly successful, and that's due to the culture of fire. Fire's unique, and the fact that they have a peer there that has the fire background that's leading it really helps with the effectiveness and the trust level. I think it establishes the trust level, and then it makes a huge difference as far as the effectiveness. Sometimes a critical incident occurs and the incident management team or human resource specialist aren't present. That would be like an emerging fire or a type 3 incident. In those situations, contact the coordination center to request critical incident stress resources. Also, a human resource specialist could be ordered immediately and be there to assist the affected personnel.
In my 22 years experience doing CISM activities and debriefing with emergency service personnel, including fire, I've found that acute stress, depression, and PTSD are the major psychological problems that people can encounter. Acute stress occurs right during and immediately after a person has gone through a very tragic or intense incident. Very often, depression can be another situation that people have to deal with, particularly for some time after an incident. In only a few cases, post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, will affect people. PTSD can be thought of as just really a hardening of the acute stress symptoms and problems that people have. CISM with personnel involved in an intense incident have been found helpful to help the person get back to work and get on with their personal life, to find support and to find a compass to do their own redirecting, to deal with the effects of the incident.
Having peers work through these things with incident personnel or firefighters, I think is a really effective way to let them talk through an incident and get those feelings out on the table, and then recover from that incident as quickly as they can.
I feel the reason this works so well is because we're all members of a firefighting community, and we're all there to help our brothers and sisters make it through these events when they happen.
So as we were running, I remember seeing some really large boulders in front of me, and I remember seeing this bellowing black smoke. It was just totally bellowing, and like that loud train right now, this wall of flame was coming towards us on our right, and it was probably 100 of those trains. It was so loud. So this roar was coming here. We had the bellowing blackness. You know, this used to be a trigger for me. You know, when I got that PTSD, I would hear trains and I would go berserk. I would start hyperventilating. So anyway, I'm really good today. I'm healthy. So anyway, continuing on. So we got the wall of flame coming